He was one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, a man who had stared down terrorists, saved New York City, and outrun explosions on the silver screen for 3 decades. A Hollywood icon whose swagger and smirk defined an era of American action cinema. And then, in the middle of all that fame, Bruce Willis quietly fell in love with a woman most of the world had never heard of. She was not a celebrity. She was not a Hollywood insider. She was a British woman, a model, yes, but not a household name, who walked into his life and changed it in ways no blockbuster script could have predicted. Their story did not end with the credits rolling. It deepened, it got harder, and in recent years, it became one of the most quietly moving love stories in all of Hollywood. So who is Emma Heming Willis? And where is she now? To understand why this relationship captured so much attention, you have to understand who Bruce Willis was at the time and what he represented. By the mid-2000s, Bruce Willis had been a global superstar for nearly 20 years. His breakout role as John McClane in Die Hard in 1988 did not just launch a franchise. It redefined what an action hero could look like: flawed, funny, bleeding, and human. Willis was not a muscle-bound fantasy. He was everyman toughness, wrapped in a smirk and a white tank top. He followed that with The Sixth Sense, Pulp Fiction, Unbreakable, and dozens more. He became one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood, commanding the kind of salary that made headlines on its own. But his personal life had always been equally public. His marriage to Demi Moore in 1987 was the celebrity union of its generation. Their divorce in 2000, after 13 years and 3 daughters together, played out in front of the entire world. What followed was a string of high-profile relationships that kept tabloids busy and fans invested. Bruce Willis was not just a movie star, he was a cultural institution, which made what happened next all the more surprising. Emma Heming was born in Malta to a British mother and a Barbadian father. She was raised in London and later built a modeling career that took her across Europe and eventually to the United States. By the time she crossed paths with Bruce Willis, she had appeared in music videos and walked runways, but she was far from a household name. They met in 2007. The details, as both have shared over the years, were refreshingly ordinary: an introduction through mutual friends, early conversations that stretched longer than expected, a connection that neither of them seemed to have been looking for. What struck observers was the contrast. Here was one of the most famous men in the world, a man who could have sought out virtually any kind of partner, and he was drawn to someone who moved through the world quietly, without the noise that surrounded him. Emma was younger than Bruce by 23 years. She was warm and grounded in a way that people who met her described as instantly disarming. She had no particular desire to be famous. She wanted a life, not a brand. And something about that, it seems, was exactly what Bruce Willis needed. Their relationship developed away from cameras for a time. There were no splashy magazine exclusives in the early months. No coordinated red carpet appearances designed to generate press. It grew in the private spaces that real relationships actually live in. When news of the relationship became public, the reaction was immediate and predictable. Tabloids zeroed in on the age gap. Columnists speculated about motivations. Some fans were skeptical, wondering how long it could last. There was a particular cultural dimension to the coverage, as well. Emma's British background, her relative anonymity, the fact that she was not embedded in the Hollywood machine, all of it made her an easy target for a press that preferred its narratives simple. But there was also genuine curiosity, and not all of it cynical. Here was a man with one of the most famous divorces in celebrity history, stepping into something new with someone who seemed, by every visible measure, to bring a different kind of energy into his world. Those who knew them described Emma as someone who did not need the spotlight and was not intimidated by Bruce's fame. That combination, rarer than it might sound, earned her quiet respect from those who observed the relationship up close. Bruce Willis and Emma Heming married in March 2009. They held 2 ceremonies, a private one in Turks and Caicos, and a second celebration shortly afterward. The weddings were intimate by Hollywood standards, reflecting a deliberate choice to keep the moment personal. In the years that followed, the couple built a family together. Their first daughter, Mabel Ray Willis, was born in 2012. Their second daughter, Evelyn Penn Willis, arrived in 2014. Bruce also maintained a close relationship with his 3 daughters from his marriage to Debonwar, Rumor, Scout, and Tuldatel. And by all accounts, the 2 families blended with genuine warmth and mutual respect. Emma carved out her own professional identity during this period as well. She launched a beauty brand called Being E, focused on clean wellness products, and worked consistently to establish herself as something beyond a famous man's partner. Their life, as glimpsed in occasional interviews and social media posts, had the texture of genuine partnership, shared parenting, family holidays, the ordinary architecture of a home built intentionally. No marriage of this profile exists without scrutiny, and the Willis marriage had its share. Over the years, tabloids periodically suggested tension or trouble, though neither Bruce nor Emma gave those narratives much oxygen. What did shift, profoundly and publicly, was something no one could have scripted. In March 2022, Bruce Willis's family released a statement disclosing that he had been diagnosed with aphasia, a condition affecting his ability to communicate, and that he was stepping away from acting as a result. The announcement was made jointly by Emma, by Demi Moore, and by their children together, a unified statement of love and support that moved millions of people. A year later, in early 2023, the family shared a further update. The aphasia diagnosis had evolved into a more specific one: frontotemporal dementia, a progressive neurological disease. It was a sobering disclosure, delivered with the same quiet dignity that had defined the family's communication throughout. For Emma, this was no longer simply the life of a celebrity spouse. It had become something far more demanding and far more real. Emma Heming Willis is still married to Bruce Willis. She is, by her own description, his primary caregiver and the emotional anchor of their family. In the years since Bruce's diagnosis became public, Emma has been remarkably open about the weight of that role. She has spoken in interviews about the grief that comes with watching a loved one change, about the invisible labor of caregiving, and about the importance of honest conversation around dementia, a disease that remains misunderstood by much of the public. She has become, in many ways, an advocate, not a celebrity advocate performing concern, but someone genuinely living the experience she speaks about. She continues to manage her wellness brand and maintains a measured presence on social media, where she occasionally shares glimpses of family life. Always thoughtfully, never exploitatively, she has spoken about the support she receives from Demi Moore and the extended family, describing a co-parenting circle that is held together with unusual grace under deeply difficult circumstances. Her daughters are growing up in a home shaped by both love and hardship, cared for by a mother who has chosen presence over public spectacle at every turn. Emma Heming Willis is not a household name, and she has never seemed to want to be. She is something rarer in Hollywood's orbit, a person who chose a life deliberately, stayed in it when it became difficult, and has carried that weight with honesty and quiet strength. The story of Bruce Willis and Emma Heming is not the story most people expected when it began. It started as tabloid fodder, the famous action star, the younger British model, the age gap, the skepticism. It seemed designed for a predictable ending. Instead, it became something else entirely. A portrait of a marriage tested not by Hollywood's usual pressures, but by something far more fundamental. Illness, mortality, the decision to stay. Fame has a way of distorting our expectations of celebrities. We expect their personal lives to be as dramatic and theatrical as the roles they play. But real life rarely follows a screenplay. Relationships age, circumstances change. The people who stay often quietly and without an audience are the ones we rarely hear enough about. Emma Heming Willis chose to love someone in full in the brightness of his career, and now, in the long and difficult passage of his illness. Whatever one thinks of celebrity culture, that choice deserves to be seen clearly. It raises questions worth sitting with. What do we actually know about the private lives of the people we put on pedestals? And when a love story becomes harder than anyone imagined, what does it tell us when someone chooses not to walk away? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.